What is going on? No horsing around family. Zach Boyd, Steve Burton, back at it again, guys. And it's been a little while since I've had an opportunity to hop on here. I've just been dealing with just a little bit of time off, spending time with my family. So thankful that Stephen gave me the opportunity to do that. But, man, I'm excited, Stephen, to be back here just talking ball, man. Anything and everything. It's kind of a dead space. So it's nice to just be able to talk about just random, subjects that of interest, and just see where, the listener is. What do you want to talk about? What are you guys interested in? What's the storyline that you're keeping an eye on? Stephen, thoughts?
Yeah, no, hey, y'all asked last week when I jumped on here, there was a lot of questions on when Zach will be back. And I told you guys, it was just a little time. He's going to be here. So I think everyone's excited to see you come back. I know I am.
For sure, man.
Man, I mean, it's Colton, both of you, let's go. What's up?
We're here, man. We're here, Colton.
Hey,
We're
man,
excited to be doing this again.
Hey, it's important to remember too. Like Zach said, we're going to keep bringing it to you, but we are approaching kind of like this, just this dead void between OTAs and actual training camp. Right. And Zach, man, stuff is just pouring in for you, man. Good to see y'all boys. Excited for the show tonight.
Love it, Nick.
We are too.
Hey, so let's do this. We mentioned right on the intro that we were going to kind of let the chat control some things if they had some things to talk about. Colton, Nick, what is the storyline right now as an Indianapolis Colts football fan that you're thinking in your mind? I just want to know more about this. I'm excited to see this, or I'm happy, I'm disappointed, whatever. One of you guys throw up a topic or a subject, both of you. We'll try to get to both of them in order and just talk about them. I guess, though, with Stephen, OTAs kick off today. Not a lot you can get from stuff like that. I've never been the type of person who gets just ultra excited. I mean, you're going to get some sound bites, and you're going to get some 5-10 second clips that are really going to be exciting, especially with the young guys as far as that goes. But for me, just a good time for the players and the coaches to start getting acclimated to each other and what they want to do and how they want to kind of galvanize that football team moving forward. Because it is if you think about it, all of the draft picks we have, all of the undrafted free agents that's going to be there, this is going to be a little bit of a new chapter for the Indianapolis Colts. It's not that normal, typical veteran-laden football team. There's a lot of youth there, man, and a lot of excitement. When you have youth, you have the unknown, but you also have some excitement because you get to see players like a Josh Downs. I'm super high on that guy. I think he could end up being one of the steals of the draft. I really do. I think he's electric, and so unlike a typical Chris Ballard draft pick, which I love the fact that he went off the grid a little bit and just went for a guy at the end of the day who can just catch the football. That's so damn important. We get so tore up on all of these stats, measurements, build, weight, height, all of that stuff. But that being said, man, I'm excited about Josh Downs. Obviously, Anthony Richardson. Come on, man. I mean, who could not be excited? The guy's not missed a beat, Stephen. I mean, you want to talk about checking all the lists for a young 21-year-old as he just had his birthday. Pretty freaking cool, man. Pretty freaking cool as far as how he's handled himself so far.
Yeah, I mean, you're right. The tough thing is I think we salivate, right? We're so excited. Rookie minicamp came, and we were really excited because it's the first time you got to see Richardson kind of on the field in a little bit of Colts colors, in the horseshoe a little bit. And now you got him this week. You got him against the vets. The vets are there. And the only thing I'll kind of glean from it, like you said, we get little clips. We didn't get a lot, from today. We didn't, because we just don't. I think friend of the show, George Bremer, he even said, they only have access for 20 minutes, and they're not really doing a lot during that. They're not going to give a lot out and show a lot. But I think the more important thing is what you're getting in the press conferences from the vets and from the coaching staff as it pertains to him, talking about the work ethic that he's put in, the work ethic, what he's doing, what he's putting in, the fact that he wants to get it right. And you've already got, me and you have been saying this from the beginning, dude needs to start right away. And he's already splitting first team reps with Gardner Minshew. I think that says a lot. But I think that's where you can really get more is not necessarily how the rookies during the rookie mini camp, how they talked about him, how the vets are talking about him. I think
Yeah.
that's a really important thing to watch and see what they say.
Yeah, I mean, I agree 100%. And also, I mean, he just seems to have this kind of command of the room for such a young guy. You know, I mean, we've heard so little about him, but yet we've heard some kind of really nice stuff come out, interviews nationally about him. And Steven, you can kind of tell that the NFL knows there's a potential for some marketing value with Anthony Richardson, because I have seen his face on NFL Network and ESPN a lot more than you would normally see a prototypical rookie that we would draft. Um,
Mm-hmm.
so there's something there. There's still something there. First question is going to come in, and it's a damn good one, and I want to address this one, Steven. I'm still pushing that. Why haven't we addressed offensive guard yet? Anxious about this. This is extremely young secondary. Wow, this is like a four-parter.
I know I'm
Most
liking the dashes to get
yeah,
all the questions
yeah.
in. Very well played, Colton. For us to read this, you got to become
Grammatically
a
correct.
member. I know you were looking into it last week,
How
so
can you not
double
love
check
that?
that.
Let's start with question one. Why haven't we addressed offensive guard? Very good question. I think we will. I really do. I think it's going to be one of those things as we get a lot closer to training camp. He always typically signs 1, 2, 3 veterans, you know, guys who may or may not even make the team. I think we'll bring someone in. I think they really want to see what they got with Will Fries before they kind of determine which way they want to go. But I don't like this idea, kind of like what they did last year, just giving a guy a job, right? Like, I know that they want it to work out with Will Fries, but he's got to go out there and earn it. So I would agree with Colton on that. Offensive guard. You got thoughts on that one before we move to question part two for Colton?
Yeah, I agree. I mean, I don't love the idea of you're gifting it to him, but
Yeah,
let's still remember, like, it's still really early. Like, not really early. We're
plenty
still
of time.
early in the off season. You know, training camp, bringing in people around training camp. Like, I could see that happening. I don't think after the debacle of last year, right, and how bad that went with Matt Pryor, I don't think Ballard's going to go through it, do that again. I like to think he's not.
Yeah,
So I mean, I agree. I think they're people are going to get dropped. People are going to get cut post June 1st cuts, right?
yeah,
Like there's going to be different things. More people will become available. I wouldn't. I would worry if we get into training camp and they've not brought anybody in at that point.
yeah,
But there's a chunk of time between now and then.
yeah. I agree with that. And he also says, question two, anxious about this extremely young secondary. You're right. I mean, but also at the same time, I mean, you got to at some point you got to throw those guys in the line of fire, right? And I mean,
Mm-hmm.
you know, Isaiah Rogers is the veteran now, really kind of with that group. Him and Kenny Moore. Kenny Moore seems to have found a fresh breath of air, I guess. You know, he had a little bit of a tough transition with, you know, when we moved into a different coaching scheme. I don't know if that fit him. Gus Bradley and him may not have seen eye to eye as far as that went. But looks like he's kind of 1 foot forward, looking to do something with that as well. And then, you know, he rounds out with most exciting. AR is must see football. Any single play could be magic. You ain't lying, brother. I mean, we've
Well, I
seen
think
the videos.
didn't George say something? The only one of the few things that he talked about that he was able to get. I think they said Richardson kind of showed his touch today on a 60-yard over to Granson that would have been a 60-yard touchdown, which I think, you know, looking
Yeah,
at last year, would have just made us go completely ape. You know,
yeah, yeah,
we would have lost our mind. And then in regards to the secondary, Colton, like I'm in agreement with Zach. All right, you gotta eventually, like you do, you've gotta put it out there. You've got to let the young guys play. We know what Isaiah Rogers can bring. I'm excited to see him get more time this year. And we talked about it last week on the live stream too. Does Kenny Moore have a bounce back year? Like he does. He seems more fresh. I think he had a
yeah,
really honest moment with himself. And I really think he had a really honest conversation with Gus Bradley after the season.
yeah.
And they got offers to trade him and they didn't do it. So he's got to feel wanted more too. Like there's going to be a role in some way, shape, or form. I mean, I'm excited to see how it looks. It doesn't always equate to this, but in my mind, it's always going to be young equals speed and
Yeah.
athletic. And I think we're going to see that. It's going to, and let's not even forget, as we're talking about the young secondary, me and you, we've got one of your favorite people coming back. Julian Blackmon's coming back.
Yep.
How's he going to look coming off the Achilles if he's even 85%? Like, that's a boost. That'll be a
Yeah.
boost because, he's a ball hawk,
You
and
get
that'll help
Logan
in the
Thomas
secondary
back there,
too.
man, who had a great rookie season as well. I mean,
Mhm.
eh, you've got young players, but you've got kind of some young veterans, don't you? Now that we've kind of
Mhm.
talked through this a little bit, I mean, young players, yeah, of course, but they've got some real experience. And I think we all champion for, Rodgers to be in that starting lineup. And for whatever reason, there's this mandate, I guess, by Gus Bradley that he had to play Brandon Faison X amount of snaps in a football game. And I'm like, how many times does a guy have to blow a coverage or get beat before you feel like, hey, we just got to get him out of this football game? Nevertheless, don't have to worry about that. Faison went back to the Raiders. Congratulations to them. Um,
Mhm. Yeah. Kudos.
man, yeah, yeah. But I mean, all in all, I mean, we've got so much young talent. I mean, Juju coming in. I mean, I know he's going to have to deal with a little bit of that injury. He's still got a couple months down the road before he can really start participating. But at the same time, just so much to really like. And with Richardson, there's going to be some really, in my opinion, anyways, there's going to be some really ugly moments, and you're going to be like, what in the hell was this guy thinking? And then there's going to be some moments where you think to yourself, you're looking over at your buddy and you're thinking, I cannot believe that guy just did that. Like I
Mhm.
cannot believe he had two guys draped on him. He spun out of it. He pump faked a pass and he ran it for 60 yards for a touchdown. Like he's
Yeah.
gonna be an exciting guy. I mean, he is just going to be, yeah, it's going to be pretty cool, man. It's going to be pretty cool. Um, yeah, yeah, it's going to be awesome.
Yeah. I mean, and let's not even forget, like, there's someone we're not even talking about too that I'm interested too in the secondary is Nick Cross is still there, right? Like, there was a reason
Yes.
why he was being pumped up last year, and then something happened. He fell out of favor and he left. What does that do? Did we wreck his confidence? Because he's a talented guy too.
He
So
was 20 years old.
yeah,
You
I
know,
mean, there's a lot
like
of question marks.
he was a real young kid, man. Like I think there just needed to be some development, and they took a big step back with him. Maybe some maturity issues as well as just understanding the actual NFL playbook. I
Hmm.
think I think that's the hardest part for some of these young kids coming in, Steven. They're just so talented and they've always been so much better than everybody they've went against. They've just relied on that, right? Like not
Yeah.
everybody has mastered this craft, and you can master it. Make no mistake about it. You can come from a situation we've seen, especially quarterbacks who weren't really in this big, deep playbook in college, get to the NFL, takes 2 or 3 years, but then they find a way to master that. I mean, it's a real art, but you have to be committed. And I think that's a little bit of what it was. But I mean, I'm glad you brought up Nick Cross because man, I'm telling you, that's a guy that preseason, I mean, he was starting. Like it
Oh
was a
yeah.
real weird thing that happened. Like he was starting. He actually had some really nice plays in the first and second game of the preseason, knocking some balls loose, really getting in there. And then things just went south on him. Nevertheless, I think we might end up, adding a veteran corner at the end of all of this as well. A lot of times Ballard loves waiting to the end to sign one of those veteran guys on a real cheap, nice one year, $3 or $4 million. Maybe throw a few incentives in there, and there'll still be some names around. So I feel
Yeah.
pretty confident that we'll be able to acquire somebody to help us on the back end before the season starts.
Yeah, I mean, it'll be interesting. I want to see what happens. And then I want to say this. So, everybody who's in the chat, we joked about this last time. Go hit the share, get another person that to come in so we can get more and more people kind of sitting in here. And then the back and forth joke that we have with Colton. If you're not a member yet, if you haven't joined the family, it is a button. Colton, I'm going to walk you through it, man. Like I know you're saying it's right. It should be right there by subscribe. There's the membership, and you can hit that button. I want to see. This is Zach's first episode back in a little while. let's top what we did last week, which we had 3 new members join last week.
That's pretty cool.
Can we top that this week in honor of Zach being back on the live stream?
Oh, man,
I want to see if we can. If you're not yet and you're in here, go do it. So
Yeah.
I wanted to say that. And then also really quickly, because we can get it, we can say it. As always, you guys, you see it scrolling across the bottom. We're sponsored by WagerWire.
Yeah.
WagerWire, you guys know my spiel. It's a once-in-a-lifetime revolutionary sports betting app. Allows you to get in and out of your parlays, in and out of your bets, like right up to the moment. Get ready to start the NBA Finals. It'd be a great thing to try to utilize that. And then also go over to their website, wagerwire.com, drop your email address. I have talked to some of the people who run it. I know that they're tweaking it. It is coming soon. The app is coming soon. Yes. I think we even had a discussion of, I think we're going to have one of the owners of WagerWire come on during the dead period and kind of talk a little bit more with you guys about it. And then go over, follow them on Twitter at WagerWire.
Yeah, definitely, guys. I mean, you like to just have a little bit of...
It's not there.
It's not there. Colton,
you can do it on your phone. You can do it on your phone, Colton.
Colton, we're gonna have a couple beers, and we're gonna get you signed up, man, to be a member.
Get you figured out. Just I know you want to.
You said maybe it's because it's on his phone, not a laptop. Fair enough. So, guys, as we get people in here, we got 12 people in here now. Want to ask you a question, and I'm going to start. And Stephen, I'm really curious of your ideas. Exactly, Colton. Anytime you go to a game, brother, you're getting one on me. Don't worry about that. We'll meet up. DM me on Twitter. I'll get you my number. We can do that for sure. Wins this year. Now, what I want to know the number for you that you feel really happy about. Like like at the end of the season, you're like, I can live with that, and that's encouraging, and I'm excited. I want to know the number it needs to get to for that, and I want to know what number would be just an absolute disappointment.
I mean, so for me, and I'm going to say something too, because I know you were going to say this too. In the chat, drop y'all's in there too. For me, disappointment would be what I'm seeing right now, which is people predicting 4-13. Okay. I'm going to be disappointed. 4 wins, that's going to be a disappointing season because that means something went off the rails, right? I think I said last week or a couple weeks ago when we first looked at the schedule. I mean, I think I'm happy with probably. I mean, and there's always the caveat. How does Richardson look? If he looks good, I mean, the number for me would be 7-8. So like 7-10, 8-9. I'm okay. Like that's a 8 wins is a massive turnaround from this past season, right? Yeah. Like that's a big jump. And in our division, it means you're probably playing pretty well in the division. You're probably in the hunt a little because I don't care what anybody says. I think the Titans take another step back. I don't think the Texans are there yet. And there's always the possibility that the utter dumpster fire for a long time that was the Jaguars reignites and you lose that. So, I mean, it's always open.
Yeah.
I'm going to say, like, I'm feeling really – if I'm a Colts fan, I'm feeling really good if they go 8-9. I'm feeling really good because that's fight. That's strong. That's doubling your win total from the previous year. I'm feeling really good if that happens.
Yeah, if Richardson wins that many games, that's big time right there. I mean, it really is. But I think I'm a little less hung up on the wins and losses. I'm more hung up on the progression and the performance that he shows from week 1. All the way up to week 18. How much does he grow? How much more confident do you get with him as being your leader moving forward? Because I'll be honest with you, I watched Peyton Manning in his rookie year. I went to his very first football game. They were 3-13, and I was not disappointed whatsoever at the end of that season because you just knew, you could see it. It was right there. Chicago last year didn't have that great of a season, but you could see Justin Fields something started to click in his head. Now I don't know if he'll go from here to here. That's the unknown. But you could see something was starting to work for that kid. You know what I mean? Like you, even though they lost all of those games, that there was positivity. I mean, it's the reason why they traded out the number 1 pick. They were willing to keep that kid because they were that encouraged. You know, there's a real possibility that we have a really bad total of losses this year, and we end up picking in that top 2 or 3, and then maybe you luck up and you get Marvin Harrison Jr. to pair with him. I mean, and I know every Colt fan in the world would just die over that. You know what I mean? But it's not your typical situation. He actually is that good, Steven. Like, he actually is that good. And so, I mean, it's not just because he was, his dad played for the Colts and he was a great football player. I mean, this guy could be generational. I mean, he looks very, very good as a wide receiver. Looks like he's probably going to be the next big budding young star.
Well, and that's kind of like similar to when you're talking about Peyton, right? Peyton goes 3-13, 13 and then you get Edgerrin James, right? Like you get that other piece. It's very and then I think there's the caveat. We hammered this home last week on the live stream too. Is that I'm in the same boat as you. I want to see development, right? I think me and you have always been in the same spot of it's going to be Richardson. We think Richardson needs to start right away, get the game experience. But if he doesn't, let's say he doesn't start till week 5 and you go 0-4, right? And then he kind of starts a little rocky, but then let's say you end the season, winning 4 out of 5, but you've only won 6 games.
Yeah.
That's a difference right there too. Yeah. That's coming on late. That's Jalen Hurts in his first year starting, right? And you got to remember too, everyone gets hung up on Mahomes, right? Like everyone talks about Mahomes and how he said Burrow he got hurt, but didn't do well his first year, right? Josh Allen wasn't great his first year, right? I mean, it takes time. Like you don't have these guys who just step in and boom. I think you're right. I think that's also why when we talk about Richardson, like I'm trying to be big on this. Temper the expectations of he's going to throw for 3,000 yards and rush for 800 or 1,000 or set the rookie record for rushing and 10 touchdowns and 20. I think you set the expectations. Like my guess has always been with him, like 2,500 yards passing. I think he's going to have a little bit more touchdowns than he does interceptions, but he's going to have double-digit picks.
Yeah.
Like I think he is. He's going to run too, but I don't think he's going to he's not going to set this record. Like if you go in with that and that perspective, I think everything you see, I mean, here's the thing too, right? Like me and you, Joe, last season, there was nothing the Colts could do at a certain point to excite any of the fan base. There wasn't a young guy to put in. There wasn't a change. Like there was but with Richardson, no matter what, and with Steichen too, it's all fresh, man. Like I think I joked, be excited. You want to think that the Colts are going to win 10 and 11 games. You do you, man. Be excited because it's a new thing.
Yeah. I mean, he's going to be probably must-see TV, and there's going to be some frustrating moments, some growing pains. I'm interested also to see, does he take on more of that Lamar Jackson persona, or does he take on a little bit more of that Jalen Hurts persona where he obviously can use his legs, but he's really, really interested in throwing the football and using his arm? Is his eyes all the way up the field? Or is he going to really fall in love with that running? And because it's his natural instinct, right? Like he's most comfortable doing that because he's great at doing that. He's powerful. He's strong. He's fast. He's got every single, aspect from an athlete that you would want from a guy who could run the football as a quarterback. But that being said, is he really going to put, a big emphasis on throwing the football down the field and making teams pay for sucking up and coming towards him, and leaving those wide receivers and giving them a lot of space as they run down the field? I'm very curious to see his demeanor and how he kind of approaches that. And then secondly, How does he react to the negative stuff? Because it's always fun, man. When you're celebrating, you're jumping around, you're laughing, you're high-fiving, and everything's, you're on cloud nine. But how do you react when you have that first game where you throw 3 picks in the game? But guess what? You're down by 9 points in the fourth quarter, a la Andrew Luck, and you come back and you find a way to win that football game, even though you've had 3 terrible quarters, with really bad interceptions and all of this. How can he respond to those negative plays? Because that's so important. Is he going to pout? I think one of the biggest drawbacks to a guy like Kyler Murray is the way, his teammates have said on record, he's got to grow up, in those moments when a ball gets tipped off of a wide receiver's hands and that ball gets picked, he should have caught it. How does that quarterback handle himself on the sideline with his team, with his teammates, and as a leader? Does he say, I don't care, that play's over, we're moving on to the next play? Or does he let it just sit there and just eat at him, and I really want to see that mental toughness as the season goes on.
Yeah, I mean, I think I'm with you, and the only way we see that, I mean, you've talked about repeatedly, is he plays, right? You can't get experience without getting experience. But that's a great point too. Like, how does he react? I mean, great example. Trevor Lawrence, playoffs last year. What, 3 picks in the first half?
Yeah. Couldn't have played.
Flip the switch, come in, and you led your team to win in the second half. Like, that's a thing that you want to see. Does he have that? And we saw, and the thing too is, in college, in the limited time in college, man, he had some bad games, right?
Yeah.
And I'll say this: the game I have always pointed to, everybody in this knows. I always talk about the Florida State game at the end of the year. I will also say, looking at it now through fresh perspective of this is my quarterback, right? Is he was the only reason they were in the game, period.
Yeah.
And he may have not completed that pass until halfway through the fourth, and then all he did was just start completing them and getting them, and they were back in the game. As a Florida State fan, you were like, oh my God, what the hell is happening?
Yeah.
And I think that that goes to something. And then also, when you talk about how he's made up and what he's doing, there was a lot of time, there's a lot of leeway. The national media gave him a lot of runway to talk about he didn't have a great team around him. And he never took the bait on that. He never took the bait that, you had a lot of drops and you had a lot of you didn't have a lot of talent in the receiver room down at Florida. And he never took that bait. He never took the opportunity to say, what could have, like you said, Kyler Murray. Kyler Murray, throws his players, Jay Cutler's another one that you hear a lot. They'll throw their teammates under the bus. You should have caught them. Aaron Rodgers is huge on that, right? And he's not done that. I mean, and like you said too, how is he going to react? Because right now, dude cannot do wrong. He is the mayor of Indianapolis.
Oh, you're not kidding.
Anything we put that has Anthony Richardson at all, if it's a short video or a video in general, it's doing math. There's a video that we made of him skipping, and it's done 15,000 views.
Yeah,
and it's him skipping to a song coming out to his first practice.
Yeah,
he can do no wrong right now.
It's crazy. Mikey says he thinks Brent and Rush are going to be ball hawks. I couldn't agree more. And
that's another guy we forgot about.
I'm so intrigued with Brent and his length. By the way, if you listen to the No Horsing Around podcast, first, last, final, and only mock draft, yours truly picked Juju Brents to be the second round pick. I'm just telling you.
That's the second year in a row.
I did it. Yeah, and I got Jelani Woods.
Second year in a row.
Yep, sure did.
Because picked Jelani Woods and Pro Football Focus ripped you for it on the draft.
I think I'm looking pretty good right now. And I think we're going to look pretty good with Juju.
Chris Ballard Jr.
Size, man. Oh my gosh. If he is willing to learn his craft, he is going to be special. I think he's got a chance. Rush, I love Rush as well. I mean, I love Freeland. I mean, this draft for me was I thought, holy freaking cow. It was a great blend too. We got some guys who have a real talent, and then we swung big late in the draft. and you go for players that you feel like, they're great athletes, but we don't know what they're actually going to be. It's kind of untapped. But that being said, still went for it, which I love. I love that the idea of what we're doing there. It's gonna be fun. It's gonna be exciting. It's gonna be an exciting, training camp. I'm gonna be there. Steven, maybe, you never know. I mean, we're gonna try.
I'm
Maybe
already in discussions with my wife and my family.
we're gonna
The
try to get
plan is
this to happen.
we are going to get credentialed again this year, just like last year,
Yeah,
unless Coach Steichen does it differently, and
that's
we
gonna
will
be a
both
done
be
deal.
there.
Yeah, that should be a done deal. Man, yeah, John, he said, I truly love this year's drafted cornerbacks. You ain't lying, brother. I mean, it looks good. I mean, it looks really, really good. I'm encouraged by that. Let's talk about some extensions. Let's do that.
Yes.
Jonathan Taylor, Michael Pittman Jr. Jonathan Taylor, it's been, reported. Obviously, he switched agents, same agent as Shaq Leonard, up for an extension, as well as Michael Pittman Jr. More likely to get the extension, Jonathan Taylor, Michael Pittman Jr. I say it's probably Jonathan Taylor. That's my personal opinion. I'm not certain that Ballard sold on him being an absolute number one. I think he believes he could be a number one. I think he believes he can be a very good NFL wide receiver. But just based off of some of his comments, he said, in the offseason, the pressers, he definitely mentioned that he needs to work. He needs to elevate his game to another level, to get where he's got to go. So I'd say more likely would be a Jonathan Taylor, but he normally does these extensions as you get closer to training camp. Like he's done with Quentin Nelson, Shaq, in the previous years. You even saw, it's just that's normally what Chris Ballard likes to do. He wants to see how they are. Are they healthy? Where's their mental state? Are they committed to this football team? I think he wants to get a little further along, closer to the season before he starts getting serious about those negotiations. Your thoughts? More likely to get signed? Both? Either? One of the two? What do you think?
So I agree. I think from everything we've heard too, like James Boyd, who shout out to James, congratulations, he's the new lead writer for the Colts for the Athletic with Zach Kiefer taking the promotion and moving to the national news. But I think James even said like there's a lot of debate on Colts Twitter and on Colts fandom on do you give him an extension, and he made it very clear there's like no debate inside the building on giving Jonathan Taylor an extension. So I would lean that way. I'm so torn with Michael Pittman Jr., right? I'm torn. He's not there. He's not at OTAs right now, but they let it be known like he's having a baby. So
Yeah.
he's not there, which is perfectly fine, right? Yeah. Like the family environment that is the Colts, they're not going to be mad about that. But you look at what he's done with who has been throwing him the ball, right? Just shy of 1,000 yards last year.
Yeah.
1,000 yards the year before with Carson Wentz. And then obviously his rookie season with Phillip Rivers, not great, but he kind of came on near the end. I mean, he's a second-round pick, so you are going into the last year. Like, and then you do. Like, you've got him, you've got Alec Pierce, you've got Josh Downs now, you got Isaiah McKenzie. I don't know. The question is, what does he want? What does Michael Pittman Jr. actually want? Does he want number one money like we've seen tossed around?
Like,
or where does he sit?
What's the number annually? What's the number where you say, if let's just put your little GM hat on right now, Stephen Burton. What's the number you say? Wait a minute here. Let's pump the brakes and let's think this through. If he comes at you and he's the agent, or he's just coming at you directly and says, I want this much per year. Is it 20? Is it 22? Is it 25? I mean, what's your number that you're thinking, brother? I think I'm gonna let you walk this thing out or play it out a little bit.
Well, I mean, the thing is, he's not what AJ Brown got. What 22, 25? Tyreek gets like 26. He's not those guys. But dude, man, we did this last year with Quentin Nelson, and I said my number to walk away was like, I think me and you were both like 18, and boom, he got like 20 plus. It's like, Okay. I mean, I think he falls in. I think he has the potential to be a number one, but he's not there yet, right? So, I mean, he comes at me with like, I want AJ Brown money. I want. I mean, I'm not gonna say Tyreek Hill because Tyreek Hill money is just stupid money.
Yeah.
But here's the thing, too, man. Like we joke, you hold off. He has a good year. There's another receiver. Like the receiver market's going to get reset very soon again because
Yeah.
Jamar Chase is up.
Yeah.
Right? He's going to reset the receiver market, I believe. So
I believe you're
I
right.
just don't. When was the last time Ballard signed two players to an extension in the same offseason?
Well, didn't he do it with no, he wouldn't have done that with Shaq and Quentin. He did them alternating.
He did those in separate years.
Yeah, I don't know if he's.
I mean, I don't know if he's ever done two in the same offseason.
Yeah, I mean, I don't know. It's going to be interesting. It'll definitely be interesting. I think that number for me, when you get around 23, 22 a year, I think that's rough, man. I mean, that is a pretty big pill to have to swallow for. I think he's just on the tip of being a number one. I'm not going to not call him a number one because he's obviously gotten extremely good, as it goes. But that being said, he's been a little bit hampered by the fact that he hasn't had a great quarterback situation, right? Like he needs a stable quarterback situation. And then this year, if I'm Michael Pittman Jr., I can kind of see him being the one guy that says, I got to get my money before the season starts, because if you're in a contract negotiating year and you've got a rookie quarterback throwing you the football, that makes it a lot rougher, the next year going into those negotiations, basically saying, it's not my fault. We had a rookie quarterback who only threw 15 times in a lot of games, and stuff like that. And my numbers are way down, and now I'm getting penalized for that. I think he's going to want his money quickly. I mean, I just do.
So for some perspective, while you were talking, I wanted to look it up, right? So top 10 receivers and yearly average. Number 10 is DJ Moore at $20.6 million. That's number 10. Number one, for perspective, one is Tyreek at 30.
Well, let's do this. Let's go on the list. You still have it pulled up?
I do.
Let's go 10-1, and let's just say real quick, just kind of a hot topic, and people can chime in too if they disagree.
Or there's a couple names.
Let's say if he's better or worse than those guys.
Okay, so number 10 is DJ Moore.
He's not better than DJ Moore.
You don't think so?
No, I don't.
I'm going to go better because I think I don't know what DJ Moore is going to do in Chicago.
It's close.
This is a one. I already feel you, man. Terry McLaurin.
He's not better than Terry.
Debo Samuels.
Terry? Who?
Yeah. Debo.
No, get out of here.
DK.
No, he's not better than DK.
Stephon Diggs.
No.
AJ Brown.
No.
Cooper Kupp.
Nope.
DeAndre Hopkins.
Nope.
Devontae.
Nope.
And then Tyreek. I would say would you put him better than Keenan Allen?
Oh my God. I mean, that's a close comp there, honestly. I mean,
here's a good one where we think we'd be comfortable. Let's say you're comfortable around 18 million for him, right? 16 to 18. That puts him down into the 20s with Hunter Renfrow, Mike Evans, Tyler Lockett, and Christian Kirk. Is that where he belongs?
He's gonna get 20. It might not be with us, but he's gonna get 20. If Christian Kirk gets 20, he's gonna get 20.
I got one. $20 million on the button. Mike Williams. I think he's better than him.
20 million. He'll get 20. I mean, from somebody.
It's crazy when you start looking at that and you're like, well, where does he hit?
He's going to try to push towards that 25 million a year, and I just think that's where Ballard's going to be out. I think max Ballard pays for him is 21 a year. I think it could possibly just because of the market.
Well, and the fun thing for me is not living in the market, not living in Indianapolis, right? I get to hear a lot of other talk about the Colts players, obviously from a division rival too. So I kind of get a different perspective. I'll tell you this, they don't look at, like, here in Tennessee at least, right? They don't look at him as a number one.
Yeah.
They don't. There are people that will. They will tell you how you have a number one in Michael Pittman. But and then look at the national news, right? They're not talking about him in the same breath as these players that we just mentioned. It's
Yeah.
going
I
to
mean,
be interesting. And when
well,
does he
I
feel
mean,
disrespected?
yeah. And also, though, think about it, though. He's our number one, but that doesn't make him a number one. I mean,
Mhm.
obviously, he's our number one option, but that doesn't necessarily make him a league wide number one.
Yeah.
Um, Very good wide receiver, though, man. Not even at all down on him. I think he's a great receiver. I just think there's a point where the money gets a little bit too high, and then you got to think about some other things. You know what I mean? You got to think about some
Mhm.
other options. And I'm a little bit afraid because these wide receivers are asking for crazy money in the last couple off seasons. So we'll just
Yeah.
see. For me, with Jonathan Taylor, I mean, I hate the idea of paying a running back that way. I've always said this, and I've said it a million years, and I struggle with this because I love Jonathan Taylor so much. You cannot pay a running back north of $10 million if they can't catch and run the football. So Christian McCaffrey, I'm all for it because the guy can catch the ball 80, 90, 100 times a year, plus he can run for over 1,200 yards a year. I'm good with that. Even Kamara getting paid. He has the ability to do both. When you're dealing with guys who don't have the ability to do both, and he really is. I mean, Jonathan Taylor's an okay pass catcher, but I think it's actually untapped. Honestly, I think they misuse him sometimes, and they don't let him be a good enough a feature back in that regard. But he's just so damn good at running the football. It's hard to not just hand him the football and say,
Mhm.
"Okay, you just take over right now." But that being said, I think he's gonna. I think he's gonna get 15 a year. I do. I think. I mean, I think that's rough. That's a rough pill to swallow for a running back. I don't care who you are, but I think he's gonna get 15 a year because he's pretty damn special when healthy. I mean, we all saw what he did. I mean, he was having. I mean, nothing really short of an MVP type of season until the debacle of how our season ended with the,
Yeah.
and the Carson Wentz era ended simultaneously.
Yeah. I mean, I think Colts fans should brace, because here's the thing too, is like, Ballard is the one who's making this decision, right? What are you going to pay him? Because they're going to pay him. Like, they're going to pay him. He's not going anywhere. They've made it pretty clear. And then because of that, like, we all thought, hey, this is the number he's going to pay Quentin Nelson, and he went above it, right?
Yeah.
Now, here's the thing to keep in mind too. Like, for the most part, this number is going to be eclipsed in the next year or two. Whatever they sign him to, someone's going to come in, and
Yep.
then a year or two down the line, it's going to look like a bargain, especially if he's playing the way he's always been playing, right? It's just the way that it works. Um, we we consider him a top 3 back in the NFL when healthy, top 2. A lot of us consider him the best back in the NFL when he's healthy. You're going to have to pay him. Like, and I'd be stunned if they
Well,
didn't.
not to cut you off, Stephen, but here's a question. Does he now have more value as a running back to our football team specifically because of the style of quarterback we have? Like now, does he become such a much more prominent player? Like we now are a running football team. The
Mhm.
Ravens are a running football team with a quarterback who's very mobile. That they'll beat you with the pass, but everything about them is predicated off of that run, that play action, that that you got to make a split second decision. Who do you want to take? You want to go for Jonathan Taylor? Do you want to go
Mhm.
for Richardson? Or do you want to take the fake and let him pull up and go 60 yards deep over you and hit you
Well,
with
and
the
on
ball?
top of that too, the comfort, the security blanket of having him for Richardson as Richardson develops over the next several years, right? Having him locked in place. I think that's a great point. Like the value he has on this team,
Yeah.
I think is pretty high. And I think also
Probably
you look at
higher.
it too,
Yeah,
like
probably higher than most football teams because we're really going to be a team that, if you look at the Eagles, I mean, you could
mhm,
go right now and look at probably 6 or 7 games last year where Jalen Hurts didn't throw over 20 attempts. Like they are a running football team. He's running 9, 10, 11 times in a game.
mhm.
I mean, that is pretty big. I mean, I think you got to consider it anyways.
Well, and even then, like you said too, like what's his value too? Because we saw what the offense looked like without him last year, right? Like let's flip it on its head. The last 2 seasons with the Titans, 2 years ago, Derrick Henry goes down. They're still the number one seed,
Yeah.
right? Last year, Derrick Henry's there, but Brian Tannehill goes down and they go in the tank, right?
Yeah.
So we don't have JT for a predominant amount of the season, and that just kneecapped the
Yeah.
offense.
It was
So you
bad.
saw how valuable he was
Yeah.
by him not being available last year. And I think
100%.
the idea of being concerned about his injury, I think don't. It's the first time he's missed time since middle school. I don't think it's
Yeah.
a trend. I think it's just the way last year was, which for me
And
and you, we joke about all the time,
I think
sucked.
the way the season went too played into that a little bit.
Mhm.
Like maybe are there a couple of those games that maybe he fights through and he actually goes out and just says, you know what, I'm going to play, in these games no matter what.
Fighting for a playoff spot. He's probably back.
Probably so. So I mean, I mean, it was just a different type of year for us. I don't know. I still think he's special. I haven't really lost faith in him. He's the one person that I think actually there's a lot of encouraging things about him. I mean, moving forward, I think he will get signed. I think that if one of the two don't get signed, I think it would be Pittman Jr. And maybe that results in a holdout. I don't know. But I'm not saying I would disagree with Chris Ballard in a situation where I don't always love everything Chris Ballard does. I'm not saying that I disagree with Ballard because there's a point, Stephen, where you're going to pay him too much money, and he's just not, when you're, when you're a wide receiver and you're a really good wide receiver, which Michael Pittman Jr. is, by the way, he catches a lot of passes, but he doesn't catch it for a lot of yards. He doesn't catch a lot of deep chunk plays, and he doesn't catch a lot of touchdowns.
Mhm.
So, like, if I'm going to pay you, I'll use Debo as an example. Debo's an amazing football player, but his volume of catches are not like a Cooper Kupp, where they just throw this guy 10, 12, 14
Yeah.
targets a game. But Debo's so special with on those games, even when he has 4 or 5 touches and maybe 2 rushes, well, he rushed one for a touchdown, and 2 of the 5 he caught it for a touchdown. Like he's punishing you when he has the ball just about every single time. I don't think Pittman Jr. is necessarily punishing you. He's moving the chains. He's keeping those first downs alive, which you need that to be a very good football team. But at the same time, I just don't know that you should be willing to pay this guy 22, 23, 24 million dollars a year. I don't know.
Well, and how's he going to, the big question too, right? How's he going to look and how is Steichen going to utilize him?
Mhm.
Is he like the AJ Brown or is he like the Devontae Smith? Like how is he going to utilize him in this offense? You're
Yeah.
right though, because I was doing stat looking up for him, and it's funny that you were saying that because I had it written down for something else. Hint hint a video, but he had what rookie year 40 receptions, 88 receptions the next year, 99 the year after, but only 503 yards, 1,082, and 925 last year.
Yeah.
And then to piggyback what you said, 1 touchdown his rookie year, 6 the year with Carson Wentz, and 4 last year.
Yeah.
So he's not getting double digit. When you're paying someone 20 to 25 million, or let's say 22 to 25 million dollars a year, dude, that is a game wrecker, a game
Yeah.
changer. Who they look at that and they go, we got to take away that half of the field. And
Yes.
I don't know if
100%.
he's that, but could it be the offense he was in with Reich and what they asked him to do? Could it look different? Could his role look different? I think that's going to be part of Steichen's here for 6 years unless he bottoms out, right? So I think how he looks, I think that's part of why they may not pay him right now. How do you look with the new coach and the new system and the new
Yeah,
quarterback?
yeah. I think you're exactly right. But I mean, so much to talk about as this offseason gets going on. Guys, I mean, it's going to be a long off season, but it's going to be a fun off season. We get a chance to interact with you guys more personal. Haven't had a chance to say this in a while, so I just wanted to take a second and thank each and every one of you for all of the interaction that we've had with you over the last couple of years. You're still riding with us. We're going into season 3, and I know that Steven and I, we had a conversation, a couple times already since the off season, and we're just very excited, man. I mean, we're just excited about what this has, in store for us. Anthony Richardson, we get to be, on the cutting edge of a young franchise quarterback, and we get to follow that, and we get to do that with you. And that's the most important thing to us. We want to use your voice. We want to, keep building this community as we're getting just up there in our numbers as we kind of inch towards 3K on YouTube, which would be a big goal before the season starts. But super big thank you to all of you. Every single one of you, Colton on here, Uncouth. Obviously, we've got so many other people, I mean, more than we can even name, but we're grateful for every single interaction. Spook as well. I mean, it's just been really cool to get to know you guys. And that's the best part about this podcast for me. Steven, you got anything before you send us off?
No, I mean, you're right. I mean, exactly kind of what you're saying. We're going into the druthers of the off season, obviously. We get it. We're going to try to do the best we can. We're going to give you guys we are approaching the area where it's like, who's going to have the biggest breakout year? Those kind of things that we'll be able to do because there's just not going to be a lot.
Yeah.
Obviously there'll be a lot of Anthony Richardson talk, and we'll try our best to not do too much of that. But at the same time, it's what we've always taken our lead from you guys. What do y'all want to talk about? And if that's the case, then that's where we'll go. And as we go through, like you always say too, we approach 2.5K. We joke all the time that we never thought we'd be at 1K, let alone 2.5K. We were always happy with a handful of people, and it's kind of crazy that it's grown beyond that. And I think now too, we've really enjoyed the expansion of the family through the memberships, right? Like we talk about it, and Zach is going to help Colton figure it out. And we'll get you on there, man. Like, we'll figure that out. I don't know if the button's disappearing for you, but we always appreciate, and like last week too, like we appreciate anything you guys do. Chatting in the chat, joining as a member, dropping a tip in the tip jar, or just being here. And I do want to say, like, we see a lot of people. I want to say this too. Don't be afraid to comment. It sounds weird, but don't be afraid to comment. Don't be afraid to get involved in the chat, because sometimes our number in the chat and the watching is high, but we might have the same couple of people going in the chat. Yeah. Don't be afraid, man. Like, we are, like Zach says all the time, we are a voice for y'all, and this is exactly where you can come and you can voice that. So I don't know, man. I got nothing else. We'll finish up OTAs this week. We'll figure out something to talk about next week, and we'll kind of go from there. But in the end, we end the thing the same way we've done it for 2 years, which is insane to think about. I love you. I know Zach loves you. We're out.